there! Welcome to episode 13 of Debra Quilts Lots and Knits Bits. I'm Debra McCracken and I quilt a lot and I knit a little bit. So I come to you every once in a while talking to you about my quilting and my knitting and what's generally going on. So today is Tuesday, March the 10th, 2020. And we're coming to you from beautiful British Columbia in Penticton. Today is a little bit overcast, which usually is in the winter. Yesterday was beautiful and sunny, but it was cold. It was like -2 all day. So, today is a little warmer. They are expecting a little bit of rain later. But, so you get one or the other, and there's not much you can do about it. So, anyway, that's why I have the lights on today instead of just using the natural light, and that's it's not very flattering, and I know that. Okay. So, anyway, let's get into the knitting bit of my life. So this is my Volition Sweater. It was started in October. Well, it's made as part of a knit-along video, knit-along with Patty Lyons, which started October 1st. And there was a little mini to make up, like a little tiny miniature sweater, just so you get an idea of how the pattern went together. And so I got that done, and then I started on the big sweater and probably started 6 or 7 times. And then finally, when we were in Mexico in January, I got past the point of where all the mistakes were happening and got going on it. So I tried to get finished yesterday, but I haven't got that far on my sleeve, so I have that much more to go. And it has this little rick-rack rib detail down the front and around the back of the neck. And it's a cotton yarn that came from Germany, and it's called Palma, and it's 100% cotton. And I got this from my friend Charlotte back last June. And so I was talking to my mom the other day, and she's like, I said, I just about got this sweater done. I think it'll be nice for Sarah. She goes, oh, what color is it? And I said, well, it's navy blue. And she said, oh. She said, well, navy blue will go with a lot of things that I have. So I have a feeling that she's claimed this already without seeing it. So it's quite a nice sweater. It's a cardigan without any buttons, which you could put buttons on if you really wanted to. And the back, the hemline has a bit of a scoop to it, which is, it's kind of a nice feature. I'll see if I can get a picture and put it in here later. And it was fun to knit. I learned a lot, and there were videos for every step of the way, and there was a Ravelry group where you could go on and ask questions, which I asked a bunch of questions at the beginning because they were questions I should probably been able to figure out myself, but it was nice to have clarification on when it says, on every 10th stitch do this, and it was like, do I do 10 stitches in between and then do that, or do I do it on the 10th stitch? It turns out on the 10th stitch is the right answer. So having finished this sleeve and gotten started on this sleeve, it gave me the confidence to pick up the sleeves on my Pure Comfort cardigan, which I've been working on since last June with the help of Charlotte. And it's a beautiful hand-dyed yarn in the birch colorway from Color Adventures. And it's 100% superwash merino. So I'm very pleased with it. And it gets a big shawl collar on it too. So it's nowhere near being finished, but I'm starting on a sleeve. Woohoo! So that's awesome. I have very good intentions for that one. And the other work in progress with my knitting. Okay, so let's count them. 1, 2, 3. I said I wouldn't be going on more than one thing at a time, and I wouldn't buy yarn for more than the next thing, and I have like probably 6 or 7 things that I have yarn for already, and now I've got 3 works in progress. Anyway, these are my socks, and I started these in January as well. These were my airplane knitting, and so there is it's called the lace arrow pattern, which is completely unrecognizable because I've made many errors, and sometimes I have more stitches at the end of that row than I did the row before, and it's weird, and I don't know what I've done, but I'm going to keep going because they're for me. And I've turned the heel now, a little heel on there, just a short row heel, which I've not done that way before. I did the fish lips kiss or something. Anyway, we'll see how that turns out. So they're going to be just shorty socks, so they're almost done. And I might be able to get another pair out of the ball of yarn from Riverstone Yarns. They're in Caslow, and this is the Slocan Lake colorway. And it is 100%, or it's superwash merino. No, it's merino, cashmere, and nylon blend. So I'm pretty happy with that. I did get that in October from Kathy from So Much More Yarns in New Denver. She was at the quilt show in Nelson, and she had lots of fabric with her, as well as some absolutely stunning yarn, and I just had to buy it. And speaking of New Denver, in June, we're having Fibrophilia Fest again, yay! So June 21st and 22nd, I am teaching a collage quilting class for 2 days, and last week there were only 2 spots left in my class, so go to fibrophilia.ca and sign up for classes if you are interested in. That's the only quilting class, a collage class, and there's also classes in knitting and spinning and dyeing and felting and other stuff. So, you know, it's always a really nice time, and it's June in New Denver is always beautiful. Not too hot, not too cold, and the merchants that come are amazing. There's so much stuff. So please join us in June and take a look at the classes. There might be something that you might want to take. It might be just like even a half-day class, and so come up and shop and visit, and then take a class and that kind of thing. And then there's also a yarn tasting evening where for the price of our ticket we get some wine and some yarn samples from each vendor, and each vendor gets up and chats about their products and how they do things, and it's really quite interesting. So it's a lot of fun, and there's lots of door prizes and all kinds of stuff too. So that being said, that's about it for knitting for this time. Quilting. There's been a lot coming and going from this quilting room, I tell you what. We went to a Soyuz February, the Valentine's Day weekend, so it's a month ago, 4 weeks ago, and I worked on my One Block Wonder Fairy Fantasy quilt. So it's got the panel in the middle and the One Block Wonders around the outside. I will have it quilted for next time, so hopefully that's a little bit of incentive for you to come back and see that. I did put pictures on Facebook and Instagram of the state it's in at the moment. It doesn't look too fantastic right now. It's kind of cool, but it's going to have like a irregular edge at the bottom, and it'll be kind of a cool wall hanging. And I took a few other things to work with, and one of my goals for the Finish Along 2020 Q1 was to make 40 more blocks for my trail mix quilt. because there are 15 times 12, so there's 180 blocks, I think. That's if my calculations are right. And I probably had 35 or 40 blocks finished before I went to retreat. And it turns out that I just kept working on it and working on it and working on it, and I actually got it finished. So here's just a corner. I've got it quilted. I don't have the binding on yet, but I actually started out with these little 4 patches. They were left over from the border of another quilt, and they finished at 2 inches. So I was going to take this trail mix pattern that I'd seen for many years at the Nelson Quilt Show. It seemed like every year somebody else had a trail mix quilt in the quilt show, and I just loved them. So I got the pattern. It's a Maybeth Oxen Rider pattern, and I just started cutting up my batik scraps. I thought I would have to recalculate all the sizes to go with these little 4 patches, but it turns out they were exactly the right size. So for about 3 or 4 years now, before I'd go to retreat, I would cut 2-inch squares and 3.5-inch squares and all kinds of pieces to go with these. And I would just kind of spend a few hours at a retreat, probably usually the last day, and sew up whatever I had cut. And so I have now finished it. I got to retreat Sunday. I got to Sunday morning at the retreat, and I was to the point where I was going to have to break into some fabric, some batiks that I brought for another project, and cut 2 more 2-inch squares. So I said, I just blurted out, does anybody have 2 2-inch squares of batik that they would be willing to donate to this project? And it didn't matter what color they were or anything like that. So Maureen and Diane and Barb Dow stepped up and passed along some scraps, and I was able to get some 2-inch squares out of there. I got more than 2, so I, took a few blocks kind of half apart and popped them in, and thank you. So, retreats are awesome for community help. So the binding I have planned for this is ready, and it's actually scraps of pieces that were in my binding bag. Every time I finish a quilt and there's stretch like a half a width of binding left over, or even like 6 inches, I throw it in this bag. And usually my bindings are 2.5 inches. Sometimes they're 2 1/4, but it's pretty easy to tell when I get to that point. And so I just picked out all the batik ones and sewed them together, and I have enough for this quilt. So that's going to happen in the next little while. And so yay, I'm very excited to have that to add to my ta-da list. So I don't know if you joined me last time. I said I'm not going to do a to-do list this year. I'm going to do a ta-da list of all the things that I finish, because I want to celebrate my accomplishments. So I've got, I finished 2 quilts this year, and I've done a couple other little things. I made little matching dresses for my husband's granddaughters for their birthday in February. I did the little Thomas and Trixie mice. I can't remember if I showed them on the last video or not. Anyway, I made little dresses to match the mice's outfits, and so it's cute. Their mom noticed, so that was good, right? And then I finished my quilt for my newest great niece. So I hope hope you're going to get it soon, Annie. I sent it to your Auntie Sarah. And I haven't heard back whether or not it's made it over to Annie yet or not. But it's only been a week or so, so I can't blame her if that didn't happen, because everybody is so busy all the time. And I've also been working on some commission quilts. So this quilt behind me is a kit from Poppins Quilt Parlor, and it is panels of artwork that's based on the CN Rail posters of, I don't know, the 40s and 50s. Anyway, that fabric came out a couple of years ago, and they made up like 3 or 4 sections of panels from with like 6 or 8 of each city, or of different cities on each panel. So Papa's made up a kit, and a lady came into the store last fall and said, "Oh, I love that quilt, and is it for sale?" And of course the answer is no. We do have kits so you can make your own. She goes, "Well, I can't make my own." So they said, "Well, Debra can make it for you." So I do that. And so she was headed to her winter home for the winter soon, and said she'd be back in the spring. So now it's the spring, so her quilt is finished. I put the binding on yesterday. Woohoo! And I have also, since retreat, I also made 2 t-shirt quilts. Mary Jo brought me like 2 garbage bag sized bags full of t-shirts and cycling jerseys and that kind of thing. Her and her husband do marathons and ultra marathons and triathlons and Ironmans and all kinds of stuff. So they had all these things over the years, and so last weekend, no, 2 weeks ago, I got to send home 2 quilts that were 60 by 72, that were made out of t-shirts, and they were all puzzled together. I have them on my Facebook page, so take a look there, please. And then there was like a half a grocery bag full of pieces that could be used in the next t-shirt quilt. So, you know, it takes quite a bit to start with to end up with a couple of quilts that size. So it was a lot of fun, and that's done. And I've also been to a class. We went to the second to last weekend of February. The Modern Quilt Guild had a class with Felicity Ronahan, who's one of our members, but she is quite well known in the modern quilting world. She's part of the Be Social group, and they have won Best Group Quilt at QuiltCon for the past 2 years. Yay! And that's pretty cool. Like, there's girls from all over that are in this group, and they're very active and very productive. So I felt kind of cool to take a class from one of them. Anyway, it was called Improv Letters, and so I did make Debra quilts lots, but I only got Debra finished because when I was putting this together, I spelled my name wrong like twice. I had to pick things out and put things back in and turn them over, and as you can see, my E and my A look very similar. So I ended up with an E on the end, and I ended up with no R, and now I spelled it right. And the quilts lots is it's here up on the wall behind here, and I'll get that finished and put together, and I'm going to make a big bag out of it, and that's going to be my bag for transporting quilts back and forth to the quilt store. And so walking down the beach, I'll have that, and people will see that I'm a quilter. So that's awesome. And what else have we got coming up? Oh, March 14th, which is Saturday, and the next Saturday, March 21st, I'm teaching a one-day collage class at Poppins Quilt Parlor. You don't even need your sewing machine for this. because we won't get that far in the first day. So contact Poppins, sign up. There's a little bit of prep to do to get ready for the class. So probably, now that I'm talking about it, Saturday might be a bit of a stretch, but next Saturday you could probably do it. So give them a call to sign up. I'll put all the contact information down below, and it would be fun to see you there. And April 25th, which is a Saturday, we're doing the Simplified Arabian Nights. So it's Arabian Nights is a Bargello quilt that looks like an Arabian carpet, and I simplified it to make it smooth, it goes together quicker, and you need 15 fabrics, and it's just a lot of fun. So I'll put a picture in here, and that's April 25th at Poppins Quilt Parlor, so you can get in touch with them again and sign up for that. And it's such a thing that once you've got all of your initial strata built, which if you're a quilter you'll understand what that means. That's just sewing big long strips of fabric together. And then once you've got that done, there's 35 sections, and so if you did one section per day, which is totally doable and would take probably, once you got the kind of in the groove of things, probably take you 40 minutes per day, you could finish the whole thing in like 35 days. So that's just a little bit of an incentive, maybe. I don't know. I think mine took me about 6 days to finish because I was trying to get it done for a quilt sample, for a class sample, and I made a mistake. So anyway, it's finished now. It's quilted. It's probably hung up in the window at the moment, and yeah. So we'll see you there, hopefully. And May the 2nd, the Modern Guild is bringing in Karen Johnston for this skinny strips. That's a picture of one of her quilts. I don't know, I think that's very close to what we'll be doing in class, but I don't know for sure. So that's May the 2nd in Summerland, and May 23rd and 24th we're doing a dye class with Leslie Forbes from Asoyas. I think we're in Oliver for that, but you can sign up for day 1 only, or day 1 and day 2. So if you're interested in either one of those, get in touch with me, and I'll get you in touch with the people that you need to get signed up for them. The Modern Guild classes are always awesome. I always learn something, and so come on out, join us. What else do I have to tell you about? I think that's about it for now. Yeah, I've just been quilting a lot. I've got lots of customer quilts to do, and I've been keeping the Facebook page, the Debra Quilt Slots Facebook page, updated with photographs of those quilts as they go home. It's so cool to see all the different stuff, and everybody is doing such different things. I recently had Jerry brought me she called it her Desert Sun or Desert Sky quilt, and I just put it on Instagram and Facebook as though it was a Judy Niemeyer quilt, and then somebody said, well, I can't find that on the Judy Niemeyer website, and I'm like, oh, well, maybe I'm wrong. So I went on to, there's a foundation paper piecing group on Facebook that I joined, and I said, hey, does anybody recognize this quilt? Like, what's the pattern? Because I thought it was a Judy Niemeyer quilt, and it's not, or I can't find it on her website. And within 20 minutes, I had an answer, and it was actually called Valerie Wells from Sisters, Oregon. It's one of her designs, and it's called Paprika, and she designed it as a raffle quilt for an Oregon group in 2017. But you can go on to their website and find the pattern and buy it, and it was pretty cool. So thank you, quilting community, for straightening me out and helping me find that pattern, because like I looked everywhere. I Googled it, I looked on Pinterest, my description was just way off. So without that lady coming on there and saying, oh, that's the paprika quilt, I would have never known. So anyway, the person that asked about the pattern now has the resources to get it, and I do too, and I probably will, because it was a very pretty quilt and didn't look that, it looked very simple to put together, and my customer did a beautiful job with it, and I got to quilt it, and I'm so pleased with that. And yeah, so happy quilting, happy knitting, happy making. I hope that you are enjoying your springtime wherever you are, and we'll see you soon.